Hi, everybody. Welcome to Our Sinclair. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about R-Type.
Ooh, R-Type?
What's your type, Aaron?
Hey, redhead, but that's a whole different story.
Is it? Did you ever put an ad in a classified?
Sure, all the time.
You know, like back in your day when you were single and looking to mingle, that's what couples did, right? They found each other through the classifieds.
We had speed dating. We had video dating. Right. I'm so old that if you really were hard up for a girlfriend, you just walk to the next cave and hit one with a club. Just drug her across by her hair.
Do you still have any of the VH tapes that you made, that you submitted to these services?
Well, that was part of the situation is they get to keep the tapes. And they weave them into some real cheap Dairy Mart style film.
Yeah, I do like the, when I watch those on YouTube, I do like the soundtrack that accompanies a lot of those. It's a very sort of AM Gold type sound.
It reminds me of sort of a, like a 70s elevator tune.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that, of course.
It's not that.
That'll get us taken down by YouTube right there. That's all you need to do. It will jump you. Bam. They'll get you. No, they speed dating and ads in the paper. So that's sort of all gone away.
Yeah, because now we've got Tinder.
Yeah. And it's just like your buddy from Korea. What was the name of that service he was fooling with? That he worked for?
Chat roulette.
Bam, get on that.
Yeah, that's all you need. I've seen some.
Have you been on there?
I've seen some compilations that are quite
compilations.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
You go on YouTube and type in chat roulette compilation.
Really? Okay. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and of course that's not even counted all the naked bits.
Have you ever been on a blind date?
No, never. Yes, maybe. I don't really know what that means.
You don't know what a blind? Someone set you up with a chick you've never met?
No, I've never been set up.
Really?
Like, I met a girl online, and I saw, like, her picture.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not a blind date before we met, because I saw her picture, right?
Did she look like the picture?
No.
Yeah. Have you ever set anybody up on a blind date?
Yes. No.
What do you keep answering with two things?
Well,
it can't be both.
At first, I thought I had, but then I realized they already knew each other.
So that's sort of the way it's done now.
Yeah.
It's all computer related. But back in the day, I'll tell you, here's a little tidbit. I don't know why we're on this subject, but when I was in high school, every year they would bring in this matchmaking computer date thing. And this is in high school, sponsored by the school. You paid your $2. They'd take all the people in the school and smush them into this computer database. I don't know what they use, what algorithm they use, but they would give you your top 10 or so chicks to hook up with.
They were still doing that when I was in high school.
And I'd be like, and I remember...
and you pay $5 for that little booklet or something.
And it's a little piece of paper. And I remember it matched up with the hottest, smartest, most successful chick in school. So if it was like a coupon, you'd have been in. I want to use this.
You just take it to her and you say, look, you got no choice. You're on the list.
Yeah. That should be part of it. Whoever's on your list, you got to give them a chance.
That's right. Just give me a chance.
It didn't happen. Needless to say.
Who was the hottest girl in your high school?
Well, I mean, what am I just gonna say? An arbitrary name?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can't remember much about high school.
Was there like one generally regarded hottest girl at your high school?
No, not one.
Okay. So there wasn't one queen above all the others.
There was a girl named Beth that I thought was very attractive girl, very nice. She was in the band, and one of my friends did go out with her for a period of time. But I never did.
Were you always singing that Cars song? My best friend's girlfriend.
Yeah, no, it was actually Jesse's Girl was a song I would want
to tell her that I love her, but the point's probably moot.
It is. It always is moot.
It's a great line.
Now I'm going to tell her that I hate her, but the point's moot. So either way you go, you're pretty much boned. That's a whole other song.
You ever talk to her anymore?
I've never talked to her.
That answers that question.
This is our Love Lord podcast, everyone. Would you get us back on track, Bode?
Okay.
Good Lord.
We're going to talk about R-Type. For real this time.
It is the name. Every time you hear it, you just think, it's a very obscure blood type as well.
Yeah. What a strange name for a game. Do you have any insight on how they chose this
I actually have a little bit of insight on this because, of course, the Sinclair game here was based on the arcade classic from IREM. You don't hear much about IREM, but they had a lot of good games.
10-Yard Fight.
Well, is that one of theirs?
That's what I always think.
So the R in this game, what do you think it stands for? Do you think thoughts, any guesses?
I always thought that this was originally supposed to be a pirate game.
Oh, you're so clever, Bode. Wrong. So stupidly wrong. It stands for Ray. Ray. Like a ray of light.
Not like the Ghostbuster.
No. Ray. So that's what it stands for. And the game came out, this is going to blow your mind. So this game came out July 1st in the arcades, 1987. That is a long time ago.
I would not have pegged this as a game that old.
No, I would absolutely not. Because in the arcade, this was top shelf shooter, shoot 'em up, if you will. You know, it's funny. I was saying this earlier. When I was a kid, we always called these games shooters, but now no one calls them that.
They call them shmups.
And so now, intermittently, I'll just default back to that, and people think I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And they know that can't be true. So.
True.
So, in the arcade version of this game, you're a pilot. You're going after aliens, and you can occasionally obtain this device called a Force. It's like a ball. It sits in front of your ship, and this is also true in the Spectrum version. And you could take this ball, you could keep it in front of you, you could ram stuff with it. You could also basically hit a button, and the ball comes off the ship, and it's basically a little like satellite. Kind of cool. This was a pretty revolutionary concept back in '87. I mean, basically games of that era, for the most part, you were just shooting stuff, and maybe this game you have like a Super Cobra or something like that, where you would just go right to or left to right and just shoot stuff.
Yeah,
there was no special coolness, so this added bonus stuff made it a little bit more fun.
This was probably the first game that really featured a mechanic like this, because whenever you talk about other games like this, they're like, oh yeah, it's like R-Type, you know. So this was like the first. Now,
one of the problems this game had in the arcade was, and it's funny, this carried through most of the other versions, it was brutally hard. It was Japan hard.
Yeah.
And we all know what that means. They don't screw around over there. It's funny, having lived in the UK, I lived in the UK. Having lived near UK, University of Kentucky, there was an arcade there, and I got to see a lot of different students that would come from all over the world there to the arcade to play. And I would often see like Japanese or Korean kids come in, and they dominated at games like this. I mean, no one could touch them. And I always wondered, I was like, they must just, I don't know what makes that happen. I mean, it's just they grew up with harder stuff, or better hand-eye.
They grew up playing harder stuff.
So
all we've got's our freaking Jumpman.
Yeah, we're boned. So anyway, of course, a game of the quality of R-Type was going to get a lot of ports, and it got ported to a zillion things. Amongst the things it was ported to was, in fact, the ZX Spectrum boat. That's why we're here. So this R-Type for the Spectrum came out in '88.
Right.
That's incredible.
One year turnaround.
That's an incredible turnaround on this game. It was published by Electric Dreams Software. Good name.
What else? Have they done anything else we've played? That sounds familiar.
They may have. I didn't write anything down.
Okay.
The name is awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
It does sound familiar.
It's like a Philip K. Dick novel.
Yeah, sort of. Now, the authors of this, though they were the publisher, the authors of this were a group called Software Studios. Now, this game's credited with 3 different people, and I did not see who exactly did what. So I'm just gonna. You got. I think this is the programmer Bob Pape or Pape, P-A-P-E. He was responsible for or worked on Dragon Breed, Firefight, Organ Master. Who knows what that's going on there?
Oregon, like the state?
No, Oregon, like.
Oh. Okay. You have to fire that up later.
Organ Master. Yeah, what would you do there? Just cause a lot of rain?
Yeah, rain over Portland.
And not let you pump your own gas. He also did Pyramids. He did a port of Rampage, and Sploosh, and Tusker.
Ooh.
Sploosh sounds interesting.
All those games sound interesting.
The other fellow that worked on it, Mark A. Jones. He worked on Afterburner, Hellfire Attack. Maze Mania, Rampage as well, Super Sprint, Tusker
again.
A game called War, and of course Altered Beast, everyone's favorite.
I hear the Amiga port's just fantastic.
Oh yeah. You never let that die, will you, boat? The third fellow that worked on this, Robert L. Highlands, he only has one credit, which is Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy.
Is that the song?
I don't know. This is for the 48K Spectrum, one-player Boatster. And the original price for this thing, back when it was released, can you believe this? I can't even get over it. The pricing is unbelievable over for the Spectrum versus what we paid over here. £9.99p.
Yeah, well, the way I think about it is that by the time we roll around to 1988, the Spectrum is known as a budget machine, and so even the full price titles on the Spectrum are still going to be a lot less than your titles on the Amiga.
I consider this when looking at these games. I really do, because that's a hell of a good. Even back in the '80s, that's not a bad price at all. And the budget price was like was £2.99p. Are you kidding me?
They're practically giving it away, and
no
it's a great
kidding.
game. Pixel says that Electric Dream published Super Hang-On, Super Sprint, and Tempest on the Spectrum.
Ooh, Tempest.
What a pedigree, yeah.
Because Tempest is not a game you think of home ports on.
No.
I can't think of any. I mean, that are actual Tempest, not Tempest
not
2000.
the Jag,
this also came out on the Amstrad, the C64, and the MSX, and the Sega Master System, among others. I mean, I think it's been
almost
with the virtual
really.
arcade and stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff's been has been shopped around. So let's discuss, Bud, if we will. What is R-Type? Go ahead and tell the fine folks at home what R-Type is all about.
Okay, so you are flying through this somewhat organic-looking alien landscape in space, and you're flying from left to right, and various creatures are trying to sometimes destroy you, sometimes just try and fly around you, and of course their touch means death. This game is unique in that it's a shooter, but it has a charge beam. And so instead of just, pew, 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 you can hold the button down, and the longer you hold the button down, your bullet becomes more powerful, and it also changes appearance.
What's the heavy beam sound like? There we go.
Yeah.
Very good, Bo.
And so it adds a layer of depth to, like you said, this is probably in a lot of ways the first truly modern horizontal shooter. I can't think of any other games that had all of these options kind of at once. There might have been something that had one of these things, but not all of them.
It was certainly a trendsetter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you basically traverse each stage. You've got a boss at the end of it, a big creature, and you've got power-ups. The orb. What did you say the special name? The Force, right? The Force. The Force has got different qualities depending on what you can pick up. They give you lasers. They allow you to detach and shoot different things. It's a really cool idea. That's more than just we're giving you a different type of missile to fire out of your ship.
The use of the Force in these games is I always have found difficult because you literally can maneuver it around.
Yeah,
it's very wacky. Amongst the things that this game offers were an array of various missile weapons or I guess lasers. Mm-hmm. You've got these sort of circular lasers that come out. You've got these reflective lasers that just bounce all over the place like diamond bounces, just right angles. Mm-hmm. Then you've got this real bizarre, follows the pattern of the screen. These kind of like lasers, almost like Tron cycles that come out. They kind of just go around everything that's
it's like a kick
available.
Sort of deal.
Very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of those, by the way. Those are because they're hard to use. But the Force, controlling the Force is key because you don't have to hold the button down. You kind of put up on you hit this game has a detach button. We should mention that this game does allow the Kensington controller or the keyboard. I actually played it I usually do this on the Spectrum. I play this with the keyboard, and that's the way I like to play most of my Spectrum games, and it does okay. Controlling the Force was a little, you had to get used to it. The detach button, though, it's nice to have that second button there, which of course you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. Now we played this on the Amigos a while back, and this, I will say, this is a fairly faithful version to the arcade. I went back and watched some arcade play. The one thing about this game is I found there were, and here's a disclaimer. You ready? I look at games like this in a certain frame of mind, and the frame of mind is what can they do given the tools that they have to work with.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fair.
Given the tools that they had to work with, if I was a kid that had a Spectrum 48K and this honed into view, I would be ecstatic over it. Now, modern Aaron plays this, and it's incredibly well. I wrote some notes down, and one of the things I wrote down was it's jumpy. It's got I don't know. I wouldn't call them frame rate issues, but it's not smooth. Is the easiest way to put it. We played Morty Vicar, whatever that was called, a couple month or so ago. And say what you will about that game. This game is a lot more adventurous than that. There's a lot more going on. But that game was much smoother than this one. A whole lot smoother, I think, than this one is. I found this game to be not very smooth. This game has a lot of color. it's kind of wacky spectrum color, just kind of random rainbow colors. It almost reminds me of putting an overlay on your Vectrix. You know what I'm saying? They're just
where the colors don't necessarily correspond to anything in particular. They're just there.
Right. Something else that bothered me when I played this was cheap computer. They would, for example, you would come back from being killed, that you would come back on the screen, and it would almost instantly, on some areas that you get killed, be a guy that rolls up behind you or above you or whatever and drops in. You could instantly die without having a chance to even hardly do anything. You've got to be very careful. That always drives me nuts. Now, with all that said, there are plenty of positives. There's a large amount of enemies, right? They're varied. The environments are very different. You've got sort of a space theme in some. You've got an organic background. And there's also one that's sort of maze-based. That's a real bizarre gimmick where it's almost like it's very confining, you know? Even the end of that is to have like a sort of a maze boss at the end that you have to try to beat in this maze. There's also the end bosses in this are very impressive, aren't they, both?
They're very, very large.
They're
We're talking
huge.
about huge sprites here.
They had just to name a few. You've got a giant crab that comes out. There's this ship that has that could detach these two other ships that kind of come at you. There's a huge battle cruiser you fight. There's this ship that almost looks like it's covered in like a blob. I think it's sort of, you blow the blob off of it, it's like a satellite or something under it. There's that maze ending one I told you about. There's this one ending, and I could never get to these, by the way. I watched several playthroughs where you go to this level and there's just stuff falling out of the ceiling.
Right, I remember that. Yeah,
you know, and then there's this super crazy alien at the end who's sort of inside another bigger alien, and you have to shoot him. So the end bosses are there, and this is an era where these games didn't always have an end boss.
Right,
they just had continual
just
shooting.
went on, yeah.
So there's something to be said for that. There are levels where you have to, which is again, this is a lot like some things we've seen on the Amiga. There are levels where you have to shoot through, like, which ironically that's what's happening on the screen. These organic tunnels. They just have to blow away all this crud to make clear a path. Basically, there are ground forces that will shoot at you, a la blood money or anything else. They're just stuff that's on the ground shooting up. They're a pain. You have to come down to get them. You can't hit the walls. You can't hit the aliens. You can't hit the bullets. So it's a super duper. I found it very difficult. But what did you think about it?
The difficulties in this game are many. Obviously, if you're watching the video version of this game right now, we're pretty far into the game. I think we're on stage 4 now, and things have gone into insane mode.
Yeah, I could never get here in a million years.
But even in the earliest levels, the game is frustrating because when you die, you don't pick up where you left off.
But it doesn't. If you get far enough,
there's a checkpoint system.
Right.
But I found that incredibly demoralizing. I'm just so used to, because even in games of this vintage, a lot of times when you die, you'll just start right where you left off. And the game is pretty generous with the amount of lives you get. The biggest problem I have with this game is that it always felt like, and maybe I'm just spoiled by the arcade version, but it feels like you never have enough horizontal space in which to maneuver.
It's very confining. I agree with that.
And I don't know, and Chris Folds mentioned this in his review, but it's almost like the aspect ratio is working against this game. If you were working with a 16:9 kind of surface, you could have more space to fly around. In this game, because you've got that square screen, it just seems like you constantly are trying to just maneuver yourself to not get run over by stuff.
There are some levels that are worse about that than others, and of course the bosses are also mammoth, and so they're, I think there are people that are good at this, and they can go through it, and one of those people is not me. That much said, it's difficult, and we had the exact same experience on the Amiga. It was so difficult that it made it not that much fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because every review that you read online, every modern review, talks about a key part of this game was when people figured out how to use peek and poke statements to sort of unlock a trainer, if you will.
Rats, I didn't know about those.
Yeah, and so of course I just went through all. I've got the the Spectrum Toe Set collection. So I just clicked through all the versions of this game until I found one with the trainer.
Oh, I didn't have that.
And then I went to town on this thing. And so, but at the same time, you know, shooters, I mean, if you turn on invincibility, you can get through it, but the game just doesn't become a whole lot of fun. And you're like, what am I even doing here? Why don't I just watch a playthrough?
Yeah.
So, I want to love this game. This is beautiful, especially after the weeks that we've had recently where we're doing games like Head Over Heels and Quasitron where it's one color, you know, it's a one color stage. This game is a feast for the eyes in terms of using the full Spectrum color palette. You know, I love the way, I don't think it's quite as jerky as you think it is.
Well, I'm looking at this, we're watching a playthrough as we talk, and this playthrough is much worse than, I mean, it wasn't nearly this bad when I played it. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing whoever put this together, they're having some kind of problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't this bad when I played it.
Yeah, and but it's just the difficulty, you know, ruins it for me. And
how far could you get? And be honest.
Oh, I couldn't get past the first stage, and I tried.
I got past the first stage. I didn't do that.
I tried really hard. This isn't my.
Did you use a joystick or the keyboard?
I use a joystick, and part of the issue I think I was having, I have that Epix joystick that's got that trigger, and I just couldn't. You know, I was trying to, and it just wasn't working for me. So this was part of the reason why, and I was going to talk about this when it came in, but I'll go ahead and mention it now. I ordered one of these mini monster joysticks with the 9-pin. They're a new joystick company out there, and for games like this, so I can have arcade controls with this thing.
Yeah, that would help. I wonder if it would help in some of the other games we played that were really, really hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. We've done the Amigos for a long time, and so we're used to these incredibly hard games. But this is an incredibly hard game. Its rep was built on the fact that it was super duper hard. Mm-hmm. And I will say, if they brought that home, because if you could load this up on the arcade machine, I could probably get just about as far as I did on this version. And this version gives you more guys. So I mean, it's a tough game, and some people that are better players than us are into that.
Yeah.
And so I'm only going to look at the things that I thought were, again, there's limiting factors on the hardware. But it was sort of jumpy, and the color, it's colorful, but it just, like I said, to me it mostly seemed kind of randomy color, and the difficulty made it not that much fun. If there was a peek or a poke I could have used, I probably would have used it, but then like you said, once you do that, it's pointless. Something else I want to mention is that charging beam, and I have the same problem in the arcade, it's almost worthless to have that thing, because by the time you charge it up, you don't know what's coming. You have to start charging before stuff shows up.
Right.
I guess for bosses it's okay.
I experimented with it, you know, it's like trying to charge it up and then be able to let several enemies line up and you can go through them, you know, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade style.
But you have to, it takes so long to charge it. You have to charge it early on.
Right.
You know, again, I think the key to this game is being very good with the additional weapons. And I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it is in the arcade, too.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it goes to show every playthrough you see of this on YouTube is somebody using cheats.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see that a lot, don't we, in some of our games we cover. Right. A lot of people are as crubby at the games as we are. But, you know, I think this was an incredible effort. If you look at this in the for the time frame and the hardware restraints you had, and this is what we do. We talk about this. It's great to see these machines where they had, here are your restraints. Mm-hmm. You get this much memory. You've got this many people have a joystick. You've got to make sure you cover your bases here. And I think if you look at it in that way, it's quite a remarkable achievement. Especially
turning it around in a year. When you think about all the horrible ports that we've played, you know, this is a quality port that came out soon after the arcade release.
Now, I will say I had a look at the Amstrad version too, because I'm a closet Amstrad fan as well. And now I have heard the Amstrad version is not that good. In fact, I've often heard that this is one of the premier games on the Spectrum. Mm-hmm. The Amstrad game looked better. I don't know if it played better. The scrolling was a little weird. Mm-hmm. And of course I didn't play it, but it looked okay. It looked more like the arcade than this, obviously, but did it play as well? I don't know. We should also mention one last thing. The sound on this is negligible, but the sounds that are included are hideous.
Yes, so. much like the 48K in the hands of a non-master, you're not going to get anything that is remotely listenable.
I read a lot of reviews on this, and they often say this. I've read this a bunch of times. The sound is what you would expect on your Spectrum. That's the line.
Yeah,
that's what you would expect on the Spectrum. I did look up some reviews on this Boatster. Mm-hmm. The World of Spectrum the fine folks that provide. By the way, this is one of the few ROMs I've seen so far that you could not legally download. This is one that you couldn't get. Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to World Spectrum, they have some you can get, some you can't. This was one you couldn't. The people over there have given this an 8.54 out of 10. So very well regarded. Crash Magazine rated this a 92%, and this was a crash smash.
Wow.
They were very pleased. Sinclair user, 90%. Your Sinclair, 9 out of 10. Ace, 871. And Your Sinclair awarded this the Mega Game Award. And so this was a very well reviewed game. It was also number 1 in RGTV's YouTube video top 5 shoot 'em ups on the ZX Spectrum. So this is a top tier Spectrum shooter, and I can see that you've got a lot going on, and there's a lot of levels and a lot of variants. So I'll give it that. But to play it in modernized or even semi-modernized, it's I would say it's good for its time, but it's not. I'm not gonna lie. This is not one that I would go pick up and play. It's not like some of the other games we played, Manic Miner and stuff, where I want to go play it again. And this is the folly, or this is the problem with arcade ports, I think, in general, in a boat. And we live in an age where you can play almost all the classic arcade games on a RetroPie, on an Atomic Pi, on your PC, on the Xbox. You can play the real R-Type. Yeah. And so it makes a lot of these old ports look ragged, and which is... sometimes they'll come through and be awesome. Like the Dreamcast Golden Axe, or excuse me, the Amiga Golden Axe. I can play that. It's pretty close to the arcade. I like it. Sometimes these games bring a different slant to the table that make them fun. But this is one of the games where I think just the rigors of time have not been kind.
Absolutely. Well, the Discord team agreed with you.
Really?
Yeah, we got some Discord reviews.
I was afraid I was going to get a lot of hate.
Pixels at Dawn says, an excellent 8-bit conversion of the arcade classic, especially since I'm terrible at this too. Graphics use the Spectrum style well, especially the impressive Starfield background, although there is some slowdown and the sound effects are a bit shrill.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the cramped resolution makes it very hard to see and react to any incoming fire, making it even more difficult than the arcade. 7 out of 10 from Pixels at Dawn. Graham Vebke says, one of the better 8-bit arcade conversions, but its graphics, while beautiful, are not in the correct aspect ratio, which makes it more difficult to recognize the patterns of attack waves, and the sound is not great either. But at least the gameplay is still there for this classic game. I don't feel it's the shmup king on the Spectrum, as many say. 7 out of 10. And finally, Chris Folds says, it's a brilliant conversion of the high-end arcade shooter. It's a bit out of aspect ratio compared to the original, which ramps up the difficulty, and it's a shame they never made a 128K enhanced version with better sound. A solid shooter, 7 out of 10. So all 3 of our reviewers mentioned the aspect ratio thing.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here when I say this. And I do respect the arcade version of R-Type and what it brought to the table. It's very clever. I'm in the minority here when I say I would much rather play a game like Super Cobra or Scramble or I'm trying to think of other left to right shooters.
Gradius.
These games,
Life Force,
those are too hard.
Salamander,
those are all too hard. These games where they started just getting crazy hard. I just couldn't. I mean, even Defender, I could never play.
Oh, well, yeah, Defender is impossible.
And it's brutally hard. I just couldn't do it. And these games, I just couldn't play. Now, when you got into the stuff that are more like Raiden, I could give those a whirl and be okay. Or even like Xevious, I love. That's a game I was a good hand in. But that's a whole different type of game.
Right.
When it came to these games, it's just not my favorites, and they're not my favorites in the shooting world. And so, it's something I should mention. And someone in chat mentioned this, and I wanted to say something about it. I actually have this. On my TurboGrafx EverDrive, and I've played it on there, and I will say that version, as you would expect, is spot on.
I'd love to try it.
TurboGrafx, when it comes to shmups, it may be the king. I mean, they've got shmups coming out the yin yang, and they're solid gold.
Right.
So if you want to play a faithful, super duper faithful rendition of this, I would go with the TurboGrafx if you're not going to play it in MAME.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Aaron, as always, if you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at feedback@oursinclair.com. Our web address is oursinclair.com. If you want to go on there and check out our past episodes, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, etc., in addition to YouTube. I want to thank our supporters, our Patreon supporters that help keep this show going. Eric Nelson, Haribo Nut, Graham Vebke, Frodo NL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, Chris Folds, Paul Harrington, and Christopher Hassel. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
They are the ones that are part of Clive's Club. A lot of those guys are part of Clive's Club, which chooses the games that we play every week. That's just one of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter, in addition to getting access to our Discord channel. And you get those limited edition magnets at Christmas time.
We had a lot of the Discord channel has been very intriguing this week.
We've had a lot of good talks on there.
And I will say, as much non-praise as I may have kept this, I was looking forward to playing this because I'd heard the rep, and it is certainly a high point in what you can consider what they could smash into a little 48K machine. It's quite amazing.
It is. And of course, if you want to watch us live, we record every Friday, except when we don't. Next week, I'm not sure what we're going to do about Our Sinclair, because we've got Amigos episode 200
crossover show.
We want. We're going to have to talk about that because we have not talked about it yet. But we're going to be recording something next Friday. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the Amigos and you want to jump in, next episode is going to be it's going to be something. Episode 200, 5 years of Amiga action.
Duh. Amazing.
But we'll definitely get an episode of Our Sinclair out next week as well. And you can watch us as like these people in the chat are. We got Pac Belly here, Jason Plevin, Henrik H.A. Anderson, Pixels at Dawn, Picard 2005, Graham Vebke, Pac Billy, Duncan Stiles, and possibly other people that are just listening. So it's always a good time in the chat. Feel free to drop by anytime. Next week, Aaron, we are going to be playing Coco Tony Wilf.
Come again?
Coco Tony Wilf.
Are those one word or multiple words?
That is 2 words. First word, Coco Tony. Second word, Wilf.
Does that stand for something? We'll figure it out, I guess.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay, Coca Tony Wilf. Sounds great.
Tune in next time to find out, guys. Until then, rewind tape
and press play.